Yo, what is up, everybody?
What up?
We are back with it with another episode. I'm losing track of the episodes, man.
Exactly. They're flowing. They're flowing. They're coming through it. So it's all good. It's all
I,
good. Just trying to share.
I think we're rounding out about season one, man. We said we're gonna do 10 episodes per season. I think this is close to the climax of the
Okay.
pod.
Okay.
So this
Woo.
is
Yeah, that's great. That's great, man. Hopefully we continue to build relationships and get feedback from folks. And so as we get ready to close this out, I guess sooner than later. But it's all good. I mean, I like the stuff that we've been putting out there thus far, though.
no, I've been enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun. So should we roll the intro?
Yeah, let's do a little intro, and then we'll get into how can you be trusted?
Let's do it.
One, two, three, four.
Oh boy.
We always can't help but smile every time we see
All
one.
right.
Right?
Good times right there. Yeah, we got maybe for season two, I think we mentioned it a while back. Yeah, we'll do a remake or whatever, update a little.
Oh, definitely. We definitely got to make that happen. So today's topic of the podcast is we're talking about how can you be a trusted adult, and we came up with 5 ways, 5 ways to know, or 5 ways that you can implement being a trusted adult.
Yes.
Should we throw out the first one for them?
Yeah. Go for it.
So go ahead.
Yeah, you do you.
He said, "Oh, me? No, okay." I'm just excited because I think this is good. I think this is good. This is going to be good information for the people listening,
I think
and
so too.
even if you're a youth listening, man, let us know if we're hitting the mark. Let us know if we're on base. If this is something you're looking for in a trusted adult. So the first one we got: be non-judgmental, right?
Yep.
Being Not being judgy about what your youth is saying. A lot of people, I know, I get it. We're adults and we have opinions and we got a lot of ideas about how our youth should be living and who they should be.
True,
But
true.
sometimes our youth don't want to get advice right off the bat, or they don't want to feel like they're being looked at a certain way for sharing information to you, right? Would you agree with that, Pop?
I definitely would agree 100%. Yeah. A lot of times when I've talked with youth, one of the things that they've shared with me is that they feel that I am non-judgmental and that I'm just there, um, to really support them, um,
Yeah.
and not judge them on what they're doing. And that means basically, hearing where they're coming from. So being non-judgmental is really, I think, a, a, a being. How do you say? I'm trying to think. Like just being in a certain space of,
Mm.
hey, I'm not going to judge them if they come at me saying like, hey, I made this mistake by I got peer pressured in the bathroom for vaping. I mean,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
vaping was going on, and then you jump down their throats right away, as opposed to saying like, hey, how did that feel, or how did you get
Mm.
in that situation, or and when you say how did you get in that situation, not like how the hell did you get in that situation, you know
Right.
better than that. That's not the type of way you want to. You just be like, wow, must have been really tough. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
going into the bathroom, seeing some of your boys or whatever, and they're over here taking a hit, and you're feeling like, should I not? That's a tough place to be, and leaving it at that, as
Right.
opposed to, better than that. Man, if you ever go into that bathroom, you just run straight out and you don't like talk to nobody. And you know, you gotta remember, man, like, we as adults need to put ourselves in their shoes, right?
Mm.
And remembering that, it's not that easy. I mean, it can be, but it cannot be also for some. To tell your homeboys or your homegirls or whatever that like, nah, I'm not down,
Right.
do it in front of 3 or 4 people.
Mhm.
So again, remembering to be just non-judgmental and um, you know, trying to understand where they're coming from and what they're going through in
Yeah.
this time and period. So yeah, I definitely think that that's important. And uh, I think the other thing is you might want to share what you shared with me is you said you were speaking to some youth over the last couple of weeks, and you said that they were sharing the same thing or something like that.
For sure, yeah, they are always preaching the non-judgmental portion. The easiest way to lose trust in a youth, or to stop having conversation with your specific child or with a youth in the community, is to judge them, right? To turn, like, just be like, oh, you are this mistake. You made this mistake, and now you got to own it, and this is what it is, and da da da. But sometimes they want to be seen as like, oh, this is a mistake, and there's some things that we can do to fix it, right? Like, this isn't the end of the world per se, right? And they just want to be validated in that, and knowing that they can come to you. And then what I hear a lot of parents say is like, well, why doesn't my youth come talk to me? Why are they going to another adult, or going to another friend, or they're going to the internet to get help or whatever? It's because probably you judged them, and they were afraid of the judgment, or to go to you and tell you that, hey, mom, dad, Nina, aunt, uncle, I messed up. And they're afraid to say that to you, because then if they say it to you, all of a sudden we look at them sideways and like, wow, I didn't raise you to be that way, or I
Mhm.
never thought you were that way. And it's about putting our opinions and our thoughts to the side for that 30-minute to hour conversation, or for a duration of time, right? We
Yes,
can try to fix it, but sometimes what I hear most often in youth is they just want somebody to be there, right? To be there
right.
in that space. And I think, do you want to add on before I move on to the next one? Because I think this segues really well into the
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I was about to say, yeah, just it does segue well into the next one, which is really, active listening,
right.
right? And it's really about taking a moment to really listen. And I don't think a lot of people know what that means when we talk about active listening.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll quote one of the things that my dad told me, which is, you have two ears, one mouth, use them proportionately,
Mhm.
which basically means, don't talk as much as you need to listen. And so a lot of times we forget about doing that, in that we always think that if we say more, that we'll get our point across uh, quicker or better, but
Mhm.
sometimes just sitting in silence and hearing somebody's story is really, really important, right? Because I think you had said, I think you said one of the youth said something to you about like not being seen or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like about them thinking like the way people see, the way people feel seen is to be heard,
Oof.
right?
Yep.
They want to be
Yeah.
heard. And so again, to that point of two ears, one mouth, is we should spend more time allowing people. There's another saying a guy gave me. He said, Jamal, everybody has a story and it deserves to be heard.
Mm.
I was like, whoa. So that means like every day when your kid comes home from school, um, they got a story that maybe they want to tell, and they want you to listen to that story, not judge it, which was our first point, right?
Yeah.
And how they made that bad mistake, or did it right or wrong. They just want to get that story out because maybe it made them feel some type of way. I mean, it definitely did, right? Because there's always some emotions tied to stories. They could be good feelings though, and they could be apprehension. It could be sadness. It could be elatedness. It could be whatever, but they want to get that out and share that with you. So you gotta be willing to listen.
Yeah.
Listen.
I think we confuse active listening a little bit with like um what real active listening is, and I think people get confused, is that when you're listening to somebody, you're giving them your undivided attention, right? And you're not thinking about what you're gonna say after they say what they said, right? And I think that's hard to do, like off human instinct, though, right? Is just to be present and to not think of, just think about what they're saying. Because sometimes what tends to happen is when we listen, when we think we're listening, and we're coming up with like, oh, well, this is what I would say, and this is what I would do, and this is what I'm gonna say right after
Mhm.
whatever they say. We end up missing what the sender is trying to communicate, right?
Right, right, yeah.
And we got to just it's again, it goes into our culture right now, and we can talk do another podcast about how our attention spans are smaller and how we just can't really pay attention. But one of the biggest things I hear from youth and being in the field is that parents complain so much about phones, right? Like so
Right.
much about
Mhm.
phones. But when their youth is trying to talk to you about their day, the first thing we're doing is we're probably on our laptop writing an email or trying to send something out for
Mhm.
work, or we're on our phone and texting da da da, and they really want your attention. They really want to like tell you what's going on, but then so often, maybe 3 times you've shown that, oh, I'm not paying attention to you. They write it off and be like, well, mom, dad, my guardian isn't gonna listen to me, so why, what's the point of talking to them? And instead of
Right.
closing down shop, or maybe just being like, hey, can you just give me 5 minutes? I'm gonna write this. I'm gonna write this email, or I'm gonna send this text out, and then we can just have like a conversation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And let
exactly,
them
right.
know that you see them and that you hear them. But hey, I just need to write this real quick, or I just need to
Yep.
get this done. Like, just hold on, I got you. And I think parents and guardians don't do that as much anymore because it's an ego thing, it's a pride thing of, well, I'm the adult and I can do what I want. But when you do that with your
Yep.
youth, is setting a tone for them too when they grow up to dismiss others or dismiss their young ones, right?
Yep.
So we
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
kind of come together as a culture and society, and especially in the Black community for sure, and being in Black and Mexican communities. And this is what this podcast is centered around: is being Black and being Mexican, of just really showing that we're listening and really being
Mhm.
present in that moment with each other, and really just being there. Because one of the things another things that you say is that, well, my dad's around or my mom's around, but like you said, they don't see me. And what they
Mhm.
really mean is that they don't hear me. They're not listening to me. So there's a difference between having an active guardian or parent in the house versus having somebody that's just there,
You're right.
right?
Right, right,
Just
right.
just a parent or guardian. So be that active person, be that active trusted adult that shows active listening. You want to add on to that?
Yeah, I was gonna say no. Yeah, I was definitely gonna say that. I was thinking about Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
And Stephen Covey had said, I think one of his principles was seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so I think we always flip that a lot of times.
Hmm.
And I think this relates to active listening in that we want to talk first, right, to get the person to understand. Um, where we're coming from or what they need to do, as opposed to really listening to where they're coming from and what they need in that moment. And that can dictate how you respond or even not respond sometimes. Like I said earlier, is maybe just being quiet and being, because a lot of times, what I found in a lot of the trainings that I do and research that I've done, and uh, evidence-based programs I'm trained in, is that a lot of them have this particular tenet, which is about listening.
Yeah.
All of them have this piece really about listening in some way. Either it's really pronounced and right there in front of you in the curriculum, or it's an underlying tone in some of the back notes that are in there. And I think it's because we just don't do enough of it. We just don't do enough of it as human beings. You think about your personal relationships, right? Even with your significant other, even when you were just talking about right now, the text, saying, like, a lot of times you'll see couples, right, texting. One's trying to talk to the other one, and the other one is, texting while that person's talking to them. You don't have their undivided attention. And how
Hmm.
does that feel? Like, that means they're halfway listening to you, if at all, and that doesn't feel good at all, man. That's like, dang, man. Like, do you even care? Are you really paying attention to me? Um, I don't know if people, that are paying attention to this, even if like at work, a lot of times, you might be in front of your teammates or whatever, and you're trying to tell them some news, but everybody's down on their computer typing, you know, and it's like, are y'all even hearing me? You know what I mean? Now, and I think that's different than people that have to fidget with something.
Agreed. Agreed.
You know what I mean? Like, fidgeting is one thing, because that we know, research has shown, is that can be beneficial for some people and help kind of concrete the verbiage, the verbal, and to making it connect with that individual and remembering those things. So fidgeting and or playing with a straw or something like that is different than I think definitely on your keyboard or texting, because you're trying to create sentences and things of that nature when you're doing that. Like if you're texting or even trying to take notes or write an email or whatever you're doing, so you're not listening, basically.
Right.
I know we've been spending a lot of time on this one, but I think it's a huge one.
But
So
it's so important.
yeah, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Remember, everybody has a story and it deserves to be told. And remember, you got two ears, one mouth. Use them proportionately.
Yeah. So we got non-judgmental. We got being an active listener, right? And then I'm gonna jump because it's in our chain of command right now. It's not next one up, but the next one up, I think that goes hand in hand with this is show interest, right? Part of active listening is showing interest in what that person is sharing, especially that youth. We were just talking about offline just right now, just being like it's important to show interest, and we forget how it feels to be a youth sometimes because we're caught up
Mhm.
in our day-to-day life, and we're so caught up with bills and rent and extracurricular activities that we got to provide for our youth and da 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 this that and the third. But sometimes the biggest things for a youth may not be the biggest thing for you, right, in that point in time. But one thing that we have to do to be a trusted adult is show interest. Let them. I know youth want to feel like they're the master in what they're sharing, right? And they
Right,
get
right.
they light up about some of the things, and even if it's wrong, like even if it's completely wrong and it's completely like outrageous, let them get it off and be like, ask questions, right? That's part of active listening as well, is being able to ask open-ended questions to them. So like you were saying, some of the guided questions you had was like, oh, so how did that make you feel, or
Mhm.
how did you think about that, or what were some other ways that you could have gone about it, or right,
Mhm.
just making them asking those open-ended questions to make them feel like you actually care and that you are interested in what they're sharing, right?
Right, exactly, exactly. Yeah, I mean, definitely showing interest is. I mean, I think in one of the previous episodes, you kind of mentioned a little bit how So I think you said your mom shows interest, right, by
Mhm.
being involved in TikTok or whatever, and sending you TikToks, right, because that's
Yeah.
something that you like, and so does your sister, and so you know. Finding ways to engage in what they like. And then it doesn't have to be like you 100% engaged with it, but it's
Right.
just like maybe learning a couple of things about it. Like my daughter, she's into cheer. I do not like cheer, but it's fun, it's cool, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I'm learning a little bit about it and the rules and the um, you know, scoring and
Hmm.
yeah, I know my thing, but hey, you know what I mean? But I want to show interest because that's what she's interested in. And so even like with the youth, talk about showing interest, man, this is crazy, right? It's like I'm trying to learn a little bit about anime.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I
I
feel you.
don't really jive with that too much, and I'm not mad at anybody if they do. It's just not my thing. But because I care about youth and I know there's a population of youth who I feel personally sometimes engaged in that feel invisible, I
Mhm.
want to let them know that they're not. And so I'm trying to figure out, for me, what is anime about? What is it that people like about it? What is it? So I can just try to find a way to connect because I want to show interest to those youth. Even more so, another example for myself is, and this, well, because you live with me, was I was never good with like the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and all that. But hey, just recently, I just bought a PlayStation 4. I didn't get the 5. I got the 4. Got the 4. Uh, but it's because I know that youth are interested in these certain type of games and things like that. And so, a lot of the ways that I used to connect, especially with music, I think I said another podcast has been a little bit more challenging nowadays because there's so many different platforms. Or maybe you and I were talking about this offline. We talked about it through the years.
Right.
That's why I hung up my DJ headphones. Um, but was wanting to connect again with youth and be able to relate a little bit more in some of these games that they're playing. Like so, right now I'm playing uh, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So it's a
Mm,
bike game, and I'm trying to learn and figure it out. And I know I was talking to some other youth the other day, and they were saying that they Grand Theft Auto. Uh,
mhm.
there's this one baking one or something that
Oh, wow.
there's a baking one, yeah. And I was like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I can get down on some baking, or at least eating it. I don't know. I don't know if I got the wooden spoon to really be baking like some of the people out here that I know or and have heard of. But anyway, so showing interest. I mean, it's really, really important for those youth.
And we kind of we're kind of a not I would say we're extreme in our way because of our field, right? We I'm not telling you to go get out and get the latest PS5 or
Oh yeah,
to do get into all the things, but if you want to, that's a good stepping stone to do that, right? Like it's a good excuse to go get a PlayStation. It's a good excuse to go do the
right.
things that these youth are into or binge watch an anime series, even though they're really long. If you don't know what anime is, and I'm gonna tell you right now, a lot of these series that these youth are watching are very, very long. There's like 1,000 episode anime, but these are things that we do because of our profession and the way that we like to connect. But it's just as small as just showing interest and being asking questions, right? Letting them feel like they are the master in that subject, because we all know it. Youth feel like they know everything, especially when they hit that 14 mark, right? My freshman year, I'll let you know that I thought I knew it all. I thought I had life by the bullhorns. I was like, this is easy. You know what I mean? But I got humbled real quick. But I mean, you were still there to be somebody who showed interest in the way I was thinking and help guide me, but not force things on me, right? And not force different beliefs or opinions on me. You just showed interest in what I was doing and what I wanted to do, right? So
Yes,
that
sir.
would be my advice to all the guardians out here. Showing interest doesn't necessarily have to be extreme as us and what we're doing of really connecting and delving and diving in to these certain niches that these youth are into. It could be as simple as just asking those questions.
Right, right. And lastly, I was going to say, another example is, what shows are your youth watching?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like talking about, social media, but then also just video streaming platforms, right? And
Yeah.
Netflix, it was interesting. My daughter was just talking about she's watching One Day at a Time, and I had started watching that actually during the pandemic because the show on Netflix, One Day at a Time, it's a throwback, right?
Mhm.
They remade it, and they deal with some youth issues in there. And I started watching it during the pandemic because I had heard that they were dealing with some things around vaping and marijuana, and they also had something around LGBTQ episode on that. So whatever your youth's watching, if you hear them mention a name, you should probably watch at least one of the episodes. Because another big one that a lot of youth were watching for a long time was what was that one?
13
13,
Reasons Why.
13 Reasons Why. Another one is Euphoria
Mm-hmm.
that had come out. And so they're watching all these things. And so if you want to know a little bit how your youth or the person that you care about that's young might be navigating some things, that can be telling. And then also know what these shows are kind of sharing and sharing with them how things are going on, and so that you can either support, coach, guide,
Yeah.
non-judgmentally, and by listening, but you're just showing interest. So,
Yeah.
I just wanted to let
No,
that also.
that's good. And another byproduct of that showing interest is that you're still in touch, right? You're able to
Right.
still be relevant and stay with the times, because that's the biggest complaint I hear from guardians and parents is that, well, I just don't know what's going on, or I can't believe that they're doing this. It's like, well, if you showed interest in what they were doing, you would feel less lost, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying it's to bag on the adults and be like, oh, you old farts, like come on, like get with it, but it's more like there's ways that you can get around it, and there's ways that you can find there's solutions to this, and that you
Yeah.
you won't be heavily informed, but you'll still have a relevant idea of what's happening in today's world and understand what your youth may be going through. And I love the TV show example, because that's honestly one of the best ways to communicate is watching those TV shows or listening to some of the music that
The
these youth
music.
are
Yeah.
listening
Care
to.
about the music. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are ways that you can show interest for sure. One of the other components of being a trusted adult, we're gonna coin this. I haven't heard anybody say this, but you're gonna hear it first on the Up to It podcast. Is honest
Whoop, whoop.
positivity, honest
Honest positivity.
positivity, right? I bet we all are familiar with the word toxic positivity, and for those that aren't familiar, toxic positivity is when everybody, there's just that one person who's happy-go-lucky every single time. Like they don't really feel those negative emotions, and they're just kind of like, well, it could be worse. And you're like, well, it is worse. Like maybe I lost my cat, or maybe I lost somebody that was near and dear to me, and they're always like, well, at least you got a roof over your head, and like just very chipper. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with being positive, but there's something wrong with being toxic, right? And having that toxic positivity, because we need those negative emotions. And what we're doing here is being recording the term honest positivity. Show honest positivity, because youth, they're great BS detectors, right? They know when you're BSing them, right? And when we are honest with our positivity, definitely going to have a little bit apprehension and some like some wincing, right? When you tell them
Mhm.
something, and we're trying to be non-judgmental, but that one thing where we told them not to do it and they did it, and you're like, ooh, right?
Right,
We got to be
right.
able to be honest in that, and be like, you know what? I was a little bit concerned, or you know what, that did bother me, but you know what? Let's try to figure out a way that we can get help, or we can adjust to this
Mhm.
mistake, or we can find a solution to this, right? Because what toxic positivity would say is, okay, yeah, no problem, it's all good, like we're good, it could be worse, right? But
Right,
being
right, right.
honest with your concerns, and having that honest positivity. You want to add to that? Do you think you have
Yeah, I was gonna say just because it's easy for us to go to the negative side of things, right? And
yeah.
I find myself challenged with that. Um, in my role at my organization, and remembering not to be negative and lean into the negative, and understanding that people are coming from the best place that they can in the moment, and sharing with them that there is things to be positive about, but you can't get there until you listen to them first, right? The individual you're talking with, and you're doing the active listening and wanting to understand where they're coming from before they're going to be willing to maybe feel, perceive, hear your honest positivity. So it's about keeping it real, but not non-judgment, but being non-judgmental in doing that. And I think the other piece of it is letting them know that you believe in them,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that you believe that they can do well. May it be grades, may it be um, whatever it is, just letting them know that yes, they can do some things. But again, that's where honest positivity comes in too, is maybe sometimes, again, after you've done the first two, not being non-judgmental, and then being active listening, is saying sometimes to them like, hey, I don't know if you should go into that, or why do you want to go into that? Because I haven't seen you really think about doing that before,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen you doing more of this. So it's not to say that you can't do it,
Right.
just to say that this might be a lot more challenging for you. And if you want to go for it. But
Yeah.
you might want to also look at this right here for yourself, right? And I think that a great example, I think, of honest positivity, right, is when you and I had a conversation about basketball. There came
Mm-hmm.
that point in time where we were looking at things like, okay, here's where we are. Um, you got a couple more years. I mean, you got 1 or 2 more years before you can look at it, D3, D2, D1. Is that something
Mm-hmm.
that you really want? And then I think I'm actually let you tell the story. I mean, you know, kind of your thought process, and honest positivity, even you having to be honest with yourself, and at the same time be positive.
Right. Yeah. No, that I think that was a hard pill to swallow. Right. I mean, everybody who had hoop dreams always was like, "Oh, I'm only going D1, or I'm going to go to a low Division 1, or whatever the case may be." But the real reality was, I had to look in the mirror and be like, "Bro, you are 5'9". You are 5'9", 160 pounds, and you don't shoot lights out. You're not jumping out the gym. You're not. I was a decent facilitator on the court, but that was about it. I wasn't a huge defensive anchor or presence. I wasn't racking up 2.5 steals a game. I wasn't rebounding. I wasn't, these little things, these minute things where you have to be solid at one thing to go to the next level, right? I didn't have that. I did have grit and I did have a competitive side, but
Mhm.
in reality, there's so much more. You get more bang for your buck with another person in, California or Texas or New York or Philly than a dude from Tucson, right? That's 5'10", right? So
Right.
we had to be real, and I had to say that I also wanted to explore more sides to me, right? Like, and we talked about this on the episode 2 of Things Gonna Change, right? Where I wanted people to have, I wanted to know who I really was as a human and as a person. I wanted to dive into my other interest, which was YouTube at the time. I was doing YouTube for real. Like I think I had one of
Yeah.
the biggest followings in my high school, right? Next to a group called Get Gone Skateboards, and they were amazing, right? But it was just an outlet for me, and I had to be honest with myself and still be positive. Understand that this isn't a knock at me. Look at how far I've got with basketball. Look at the vehicle that
Mhm.
it, that it
Yep.
propelled me to. Look at where it got me to. Look at all the experiences I was able to experience through basketball. But I had to be honest with myself and still be like, all right, that was great. Let's go on to the next adventure and let's figure it out. And it's easier said than done. It's definitely easier said than done, right? Like I was hurting. There's times where I was like, all right, you know what? Let me just lace up. I'm going to play intramural basketball. Like, let me try it
Right,
again.
right, right,
Or
right,
I'm
right,
going to
right.
go shoot hoops back outside and then cramp up and playing basketball in 105-degree weather and then go to my mom's house and I'm living by myself and I'm cramping up in my mom's crib. Like, like stuff like that. So there was still that, thing lingering that still that was trying to tell me that I still had it. But again, got to be honest with myself and show that honest positivity. One of the things that I liked in the clip that I saw on TikTok was Simon Simon Sinek. You know who Simon Sinek is? Have you
Yep,
heard of the
definitely,
name?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Simon was saying, who said the truth had to be hurtful, right? Who said
Mm.
that, a lot of people say, oh, the truth hurts, or I'm not, I'm not, I'm not, what do people say? I'm not, I'm not mean. I just say what's on my
Honest. Yeah, 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 yeah.
right. But Simon Sinek was saying that, it's how you say it, right? It's
Right.
not what you say, it's how you say it. And when we say honest positivity, you're going to also separate it into just being honest by having a positive undertone, right?
Mhm.
Because there's a difference between saying, Z, you suck at basketball, you should probably think about quitting,
Right.
versus, man, all right, cool. Like, let's see what other options are out there for you, man. Like, I know basketball is like your passion, but what could you do
Right.
besides basketball and still be in the realm of athletics? You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Exactly.
That sounds different, and that's awesome for people to hear that. I'm glad Simon said it, because there's too many people walking around here just saying, "Oh, well, I'm just honest," or I just say
Mhm.
how it is. I'm just real. It's like, well, the truth never was meant to hurt. The truth
Right.
is the truth. I mean, you can say it in a way that's digestible and easy on the other person, and that goes into having empathy, right? And being
Right.
able to be empathetic. And I think all of we have always mentioned this from our last 3 lists that we got, or our last 3 characteristics, is that there's a empathy undertone in each one,
Mhm.
right? It's like
Yeah. Yep.
seeking to understand, right? We don't have to go through exactly what our youth has gone through to understand them, right? We can try to mimic or understand how it feels and how they feel about that situation at that point in
Yep.
time.
That's so true. That's so true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, again, I mean, and some of the stuff we might be able to relate to, but we got to take ourselves back there. But some of it maybe not, because again, it is different times. But some of the, general things of being left out, or sometimes being whispered about, or gossiped about, or having to deal with homework, or dealing with having to clean your room. Those are some of the things probably that we can relate to. But maybe some of the things, as far as like, all caps being sent to you in a text message, no, you may not know what that's really all about, and how that can hurt your feelings, because it
Right.
hurt me when I got one of those from somebody. It was a wrong text. But I was all like, why they yelling? Why they yelling at me?
Right.
I don't even know who this is. And I feel violated. But anyway, so honest positivity, definitely. Let's do this last one. The last one is being reliable and consistent. Being reliable and consistent. What we're talking about on that is, your youth knowing that they can come to you. Um and rely on you to be there for them. Now, granted, yes, there may be some times, and Z kind of said it earlier in another part of the as an example, but is yeah, I mean, if you got to finish up something real quick, you know what I mean, an email, a project, whatever, and you need like another 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you know, again, letting the youth know that hey, you're your child, a kid, or whoever it may be. Yeah, hey, I need 30 more minutes, but then you follow up and you make sure you go and then talk to them about, hey, you had just come to my office at the house, or I don't know, whatever. I was in the backyard finishing up the lawn, and hey, but I wanted to hear what you had to say because I told you I needed 30 more minutes to finish this up. So that's being reliable. Part of that's part of being reliable is them knowing that they can come to you and come to you with the tough and hard questions
Mhm.
that they need. But the only way they're going to do that is if you practice some of the former points that we talked about, being non-judgmental, active listening, honest positivity, showing interest. And so then when you're being reliable and letting the youth know that you are reliable, you got to be consistent with that.
Yeah.
You can't be wishy-washy. You
Mhm.
can't be one way one day and then another the next, and then the next day another, and then that's not consistency,
Yeah.
right? Because then that's when that young person is going to be like, they're a little bit too wishy-washy for me.
Right.
I'm not gonna approach them, or I'm not gonna go to them, and then that's where adults miss out on those opportunities to be influential in a positive way. And so what they then end up doing is going to those other places that are reliable and consistent,
Right.
right? To seek that help or that guidance. And when I'm saying that, I mean negative help and
Right.
guidance, right?
For sure.
Because that vape pen is always there.
Mhm.
That alcohol bottle is always easy to get to.
Right.
That weed, they used to call it back in the day, even before me, Mary Jane, is
Mhm.
something that'll talk to you all the time, and it'll
Right.
always be there and let you know they can help you get through good times or bad times. And that's not what we want. We don't want those substances to be the one that's reliable and consistent. We
Yeah.
need caring adults to be that. And the other thing is, thinking about reliable and consistent is, we need to remember that we need to help our teachers,
Mhm.
staff, and professors, and faculty members out there. Yes, we send our youth to schools, but that teacher, staff, faculty member, whatever, that one person with maybe 30, 35 students per period,
Right.
man, that's a lot of, and you only got two kids in your house
Mhm.
or four,
Right.
right? But this teacher got, what, 8 times 30, 240 students.
Right.
How can they do it all by themselves? You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And you know, definitely support teachers. I definitely support teachers, and that's
For
why I
sure.
think they should be paid more, just
Agreed.
across the board in this nation, because they are, for the most part, 90, I say 90, 95% of them are reliable and consistent
For
because they
sure.
show up every day,
Mhm.
to be there with those youth and deal with, lesson plans and IEPs and, some youth with, challenging behaviors. But they show up every day,
Mhm.
5 days a week. You know what I mean? So we as adults and who say that we care about young people need to be reliable and consistent. So I don't know if you wanted to add on.
No, I think that was I mean, I do want to add on because I think that was perfectly summed up. I think we also need to talk about balance, right? Like I guess as adults, life is stressful, right? And life can get hard, and it could be, oh, I don't want to talk to this kid about this right now, or I don't want to, set time aside to talk to this person right now. And there's, like we said, honest positivity. Sometimes that honest positivity is being, hey, you know what? I'm just not in the headspace right now to give you my full attention to actively listen right now at this time. Yo, can we revisit in 45, 30 minutes, right? Or can we put a bookmark in it for now, but we'll talk about it on Thursday. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, exactly.
being able to be that effective communicator. And it might sound cheesy and you're like, well, why do I have to explain myself to my youth? Because that's showing that you're a human, and that's showing that you are reliable and consistent, and that you are a caring adult. That's why people, I think, us adults, we get too prideful, and it can come from traumas from our upbringing, and the way that we were taught, and the way
Mhm.
that we should parent. And I gotta give it up for the adults in the room, because if you do have a youth, like, you're doing it. First and foremost, like,
It's true. It's true.
there's no manual to raising a great youth, right? There's a lot of strategies, there's a lot of tips and tricks and advice, but you got to figure out the ones that work for you and work for your family. But at the same time, now you have access to the internet. You have access to things that where you can rewrite and break generational cycles of emotional abuse, or emotional neglect, or physical
Mhm.
neglect, right?
Mhm.
Like,
So
there's
true.
so
So
much
true.
more that you can do. And it sounds scary, especially for adults. Like, oh, I got to be that person that breaks the generational cycle. Like, it's easy for us to do the things that are normalized in our world, right? Than it
Right.
is to do the good things, or the healthy things, right? To make our families better and stronger, and create legacy, and to create healthy human beings. And that's
Yep.
what we're trying to do. So you can rewrite it. So all you got to do is follow these steps, right? And all these things, maybe it sounds right now in this 45-minute podcast that you're listening to, it might sound like there's a lot of things that you got to do, but take it step by step. Ease your way into it. Nobody's
Yep.
telling you that you have to do this overnight. Nobody's telling you, like, after you hear this podcast from Z and Jamal, that you got to wake up your youth and be like, hey, tell me everything. I'm a non-judgmental person. I can active listen. I can do all these things. Z and Jamal told me all these great things. Let's talk about it. Like, don't, like, when the opportunity presents itself, do it. Do
Yeah.
the
Remember.
thing. Yeah, remember it. And we'll come up with a nice little acronym for you. Me and Dad will think about it a little bit more. But for now, we'll leave you with these 5 steps and these 5 strategies to be a trusted adult, or to know if you are being a trusted adult, right?
Which is, yeah, definitely being non-judgmental, listening actively, honest positivity. It's really about being reliable and consistent, and make sure you're showing interest. The other thing is, this is not just for um, parents, and we want to make sure that's clear,
Mhm.
right? Or caregivers, nanas, grandparents. This is even for people if you are getting interested in mentoring a young person, or if you're thinking about becoming a foster parent, right? Um, if you are coaching a little league team,
Mhm.
or a sports or a club team. Um, these are things for you to know, because I don't think people share this with folks when they are about to engage with young people. So that's one of the reasons Z and I were like, hey, we should maybe talk about this to help people think about
Yeah.
these type of things. And the other thing to remember in closing for me is that these are things that youth have told us.
Right.
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 So this isn't just us, in our own individual homes or places making this up ourselves. This is what the young people are telling us. And who better to, hear from than those who are saying how they would like to see it.
Mhm.
So not being non-judgmental, active listening, honest positivity, being reliable and consistent, and showing interest. So we want to thank y'all, most definitely,
Yeah.
right?
We do. We do.
Oh, we got to do that thing. What's that thing that you do?
Oh, well, here we go. Here's the thing. All right. This is what Dad's telling y'all about. So if you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, which majority of you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, we got stats and statistics. You know what I'm saying? We be doing that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What we want you to do is, after you listen to this podcast, leave us a review. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Let us know how you felt about a certain episode. Maybe, Z and Jamal maybe missed the mark. Let us write a review on us. Let us know if we missed the mark. And if we did miss the mark, also send us an email. Let us know what you were thinking. But also, if you're like somebody that liked what you listened to, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm taking away, I'm sure for sure, I think I can do better at active listening. Let us know on the review.
Yeah.
Also, be that person that don't gatekeep the podcast. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people do that when they got something good. They're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna just, hopefully they just keep keep them underground, and we nobody finds out about them. Don't be that person. Let family
Right.
member know. Let a friend know. Let a neighbor know that I'm listening to this dope podcast called the Up to It Podcast, and Z and Jamal got some good gems for helping us be better adults and helping our youth and raise healthy youth. Let us know. Let them know. Share the podcast with them. We also want you to subscribe to us on YouTube. A lot of you are probably listening to us on your headphones, which is great. But sometimes we got some good animated facial expressions happening on this podcast that you can probably miss out on. So if you're on the treadmill, all you gotta do is set us up. You'll be good watching some good content. But with that being said, man, some positive content, because in the world it seems like there's so much negativity happening, right?
Yes, sir.
So sometimes you just need a refresher, somebody that can go on your account and freshen up your feed.
And one of the things I want to add real quick is, I mean, somebody has an idea on something that they think that, you're curious about how we would feel about it, or maybe how we discussed it in our family as Z was coming up. Yeah, throw that in a email, chat, whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe we could talk about it.
Definitely. And then lastly, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the places you want to follow us and keep tabs on what we're doing. You can follow us at the Up to It Podcast everywhere. We one of one, baby. You know what I'm saying? Nobody else had that username. So we one of one. So you can look us up anywhere that you want to, that you enjoy your social media feeds. You can follow us right then and there at the Up to It Podcast. Like I said, share with a friend. And we're going to get up out of here, man. This was a fun episode. And we will talk to y'all real soon. Y'all have a great rest of the day. Peace.